Welcome back to So What Does That Mean? The podcast where we break down engineering, planning, and construction in plain English. I'm Brendan, the engineer.
And I'm Joanne. If you're a developer, builder, homeowner, investor, or just someone trying to make sense of the construction world, you're in the right place.
Every episode, we take something that can cost people real money, real time, and real stress, and we unpack it in a way that actually makes sense.
No jargon walls, no lectures, just practical, common sense advice from the people who see these issues every day. Okay, Brendan, everyone's arguing about whether AI is going to replace engineers. You actually use it. What's the honest answer? Is the profession scared of this, or is it just headlines?
Well, Engineers Australia polled the profession in July 2026. 67% said productivity and efficiency was AI's biggest impact on engineering right now. Only 22% named job disruption. It's already normal, not experimental. Around 56% of engineering workplaces have integrated traditional AI like machine learning and predictive analytics, and 43% of engineers report using generative AI in their actual work. Engineers Australia's own line is worth repeating. AI is not a replacement for engineering expertise, judgment, or accountability. Personally, I don't think the question is, will AI replace engineers? The question is, who signs the drawing? And the answer to that hasn't changed at all.
Okay, so give me the unglamorous version. What does it actually do in your office on a Tuesday, for example?
Boring 80%. First drafts of reports, summarizing a long specification, tidying up file notes, drafting an RFI response, turning messy meeting notes into actions, restructuring a paragraph that isn't landing, checking, not deciding. Here are 40 pages of spec, and here's the drawing set. List every place they contradict each other. That's a genuinely useful second pair of eyes. Explaining things, taking a technical finding and rewriting it so a homeowner or a builder actually understands it. That's most of what this podcast does. It buys back time for the 20% that actually matters. The judgment calls, the site visits, the phone call where you tell someone something they didn't want to hear. Where it earns its keep in a small firm is admin drag, not design.
What's the failure mode? How does it go wrong?
Dangerous thing isn't that it's wrong. It's that it's wrong in the same confident tone it uses when it's right. The classic example, an invented or clause reference in an Australian standard, formatted perfectly, sounding completely authoritative. If you don't open the standard and check, you've just published someone else's guess. It has no sight sense. It didn't stand on the block. It didn't see the neighbour's retaining wall leaning, or the damp patch that only appears after rain, or the tree that isn't on the plan. It has no professional exposure. It can't be cross-examined. It can't be sanctioned. And it can't be called to explain a decision 6 years later in a dispute. You can. A model doesn't know what it doesn't know, and it never says so. That's not a flaw you can prompt your way out of. It's a reason to verify.
So what about legally? Where does the buck stop on an engineering document?
Registration attaches to a named human being, not a tool. Queensland has required registration of professional engineers since 1929. RPQ is not new. It's spreading. In Victoria, registration became mandatory for structural and fire safety engineers from 1st of July 2026, with civil and mechanical building engineers required from the 1st of July 2027. In New South Wales, engineers doing professional engineering work on Class 2, 3 and 9C buildings must be registered under the Design and Building Practitioners Act. No regulator, no insurer, and no court anywhere in Australia accepts the software said so. Someone's name goes on it, and that carries the consequence. This is actually good news for homeowners and builders. Ask who is signing and ask whether they're registered. That question is now a completely normal thing to ask.
So what would you say the risk here is? Is it the technology or is it how people are using it?
Engineers Australia's research found 66% of engineers had received no formal training in generative AI at all. And of the ones who had, only about half felt confident using it well. The policy gap is stark by firm size. Around 44% of very large engineering companies had AI use policies and guidelines, compared with just 13% of small firms. So the actual risk isn't robots. It's a capable, well-meaning person in a 6-person office pasting client confidential information into a tool nobody has assessed, with no rule about what gets checked before it leaves the building. That's a solvable problem, and it's solvable this week for free.
Say I run a small business, not even engineering. What should I actually write down?
Who can go in? What must never go in? What has to be verified before it leaves the office, and who signs? Confidential client data, personal information, and anything commercially sensitive stay out unless the tool is properly contracted and assessed. Default to out. As a verification, any number, any clause reference, any standard, any legal statement gets checked against the source document by a human before it goes anywhere. Keep a note on file about what was AI assisted. Not because you're ashamed of it, because in 5 years someone may ask, and we had a documented process, is a very different answer from I can't remember. When talking to clients, be straightforward. Nobody minds that a report was drafted with software. What they'd mind is finding out you didn't check it.
Some of the most common questions online at the moment are, will AI take my engineering job? What's your honest take on that?
What's at risk is the task, not the profession. If your entire value is typing up a report someone else thought about, that's exposed. If your value is judgment, relationships, and accountability, it isn't.
What about students asking whether using AI for assignments and calcs is cheating? Where do you think the line is there?
Using it to understand a concept is study. Using it to produce work you can't explain is a trap, because the first job interview will ask you to explain it, and the first site visit will ask you to apply it.
People preparing migration skills assessments are asking whether they can still use AI to write their career episodes. Would you recommend that they do?
Well, assessment bodies increasingly expect a career episode to be your own account of your own engineering decisions. Use it to fix grammar and structure, not to invent engineering you didn't do. And check current guidance before you rely on it, because this area is moving fast.
And from small business owners, everyone says I should be using AI. Where would I even start?
Pick one reoccurring, boring, low-risk task and do only that for a month. Quotes, meeting notes, first draft emails. Don't start with the thing your reputation rests on. 43% of engineers are already using generative AI in their work, but 66% have had no formal training in it whatsoever. That gap is the whole story. 13% of small engineering firms have any AI policy at all, against 44% of the larger firms. So the businesses with the least legal cover are the ones flying blind. Only 22% of engineers named job disruption as AI's biggest impact. Nearly 3 times as many named productivity. The people closest to the technology are the least frightened of it. Here are 6 practical takeaways. AI is already normal in engineering. 43% of engineers use generative AI, and 67% say productivity is its biggest impact.
It's brilliant at drafts, summaries, cross-checks, and explanations, and unreliable on clause references, exact numbers, and anything requiring site knowledge.
It fails confidently. Verify every figure, standard, and legal statement against the source every time.
Registration attaches to a person. In Victoria, structural and fire safety engineer registration became mandatory on the 1st of July 2026, with civil and mechanical to follow in 2027.
The real risk in a small business is the policy gap, not the technology. Only 13% of small engineering firms have any AI guidelines.
Write a 1-page policy this week. What goes in, what never goes in, what gets verified, and who signs. Brendan, you've actually written a book about this, haven't you?
I did. It's called The AI-Powered Engineer. It came out of exactly the problem we just described. I kept watching good engineers either avoid this stuff completely or trust it far too much. and there was nothing written for the middle ground. So it's the practical version. Which tasks to hand over, which ones never to hand over, how to write the verification step into your own workflow, and the one-page policy we just talked through. Already drafted so you can adapt.
And for the price of what, a coffee and a sandwich?
About that. If it saves you one unchecked clause reference going out the door, it's paid for itself several thousand times over. The link's in the episode description and pinned to the comments.
Before we wrap up, we've got some news of our own.
We do. Joanne and I have started another business. It's called Shortlist Advisory, and it's a role placement company built on a completely different model than the usual one.
Meaning what, in plain English?
Two things. Engineers get on the register for free, always, and they only get there after being screened against a written Australian employment readiness standard. So employers know exactly what ready means before anyone's name comes across their desk. And employers pay one fixed fee instead of a percentage of the candidate's salary. So the cost is known on day one and doesn't go up just because the role does.
And it came out of this podcast, really?
It came out of our previous episodes, the migrant engineers and the graduates. We kept saying somebody should fix this. Eventually, you have to be the somebody. We talk about how it actually works in episode 34.
Are you using AI at work and quietly wondering if you're allowed to? Or has your workplace banned it outright with no explanation?
Tell us on YouTube or through JCE, particularly if you're a small business trying to work out where the line sits. That's the conversation the industry isn't having loudly. The technology got very good very quickly. The accountability didn't move an inch. That's not a limitation. That's the whole point of a profession. Someone has to be answerable, and no amount of processing power volunteers for that job.
If this episode settled an argument in your office, share it with whoever you are arguing with. Subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, and connect with us on LinkedIn.
And as always, if you've got a topic, a question, or a building headache you want us to unpack, send it through to JCE. We genuinely enjoy this stuff.
Thanks for listening.
See you on the next one.